Live from the Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL9 News at 4.
Now at 4, deadly gunfire at a massive mansion party near Beverly Hills. As people ran for cover, the shooter vanished in the dark. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susie Sun.
And I'm Juan Fernandez. This is KCAL9 News at 4, and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. Well, detectives are looking at every angle of this shooting.
And they have plenty of cell phone video to work with. KCAL9's Jeff Nguyen shows us those frightening moments.
This afternoon, Armani Blanco was able to retrieve her food truck after it was locked for hours inside a deadly crime scene.
All I know is me and my staff got down and did our best to protect ourselves from getting hit.
A partygoer posted this clip, the sound of more than a dozen gunshots at the tail end of a party at a rented Beverly Crest mansion. Detectives say a 35-year-old woman was killed and a second woman and a man are hospitalized, while 2 other people suffered less serious injuries. Our chopper was above the scene hours before the shooting when we could see dozens of people without masks and too close to one another.
All around, it sounds like a high-risk experience for those who were there and, frankly, for the loved ones that they go home to.
The LAPD did get calls for noise complaints last night, but they say the laws are tough to enforce.
Especially when it's a private party and it's like us going into your home telling you what to do. How can I do that?
The police are right that they could not lawfully have entered the house without a warrant or without someone granting them consent.
Police say the shooting appears to be gang-related, but partygoers dispute that. It's unclear who was behind the event, but attendees do say they had to go through security before going in.
No weapons and nothing like that, and you had to show ID.
The security pat everybody down from the socks to the drawers. There were no weapons inside of the party that I know of.
Partygoers say the shooting happened outside of this property. At this point, detectives are not saying if they have any leads on who the shooter or shooters are. In Beverly Crest, Jeff Nguyen, KCAL9 News.
Developing news now overseas in Lebanon, where the death toll is mounting this afternoon after 2 massive explosions in that country's capital.
Let's go ahead and go to KCAL9's Jasmine Veal, who's been watching the events as they unfold. Jazz?
Juan, this is just devastating, and late-breaking details. We now know at least 73 are dead and more than 3,000 injured so far from these explosions at Beirut's port. Lebanon's prime minister just addressed his nation, vowing that whoever is responsible would be brought to justice. An explosion sent a mushroom cloud of fire and debris high into the air near Beirut's central port. Local media reported people trapped beneath rubble, and Lebanon's Red Cross estimates there are hundreds of casualties. Although the exact cause is not yet known, Lebanon's national news agency is reporting the blast happened after a fire broke out at a warehouse. A White House aide tweeted President Trump has been briefed, and the State Department says it is working closely with local authorities to determine if any U.S. citizens were injured in the blast.
Our prayers go out to all the victims and their families. The United States stands ready to assist Lebanon. We have a very good relationship with the people of Lebanon, and we will be there to help. It looks like a terrible attack.
The explosion's widespread destruction comes at a tough time for Lebanon. The country has seen massive protests due to political tensions and is in the middle of an economic crisis. I mean, this poor city that has already gone through so much. A Lebanese security official said that the blast might have been caused by explosive material confiscated from a ship and stored at the port. A local TV channel is reporting that the material was sodium nitrate. Witnesses reported seeing that strange orange-colored cloud after this explosion, and experts say orange clouds often follow an explosion involving nitrates. Juan, Susie.
Just terrible. All right, Jasmine, thank you. The state's health director says there's a problem in the system used to count coronavirus cases. That came out in a Zoom news conference today.
That's right. Dr. Mark Gawley admits there's probably an undercount and that they're working to fix the system. Numbers have been lower this week, and today 4,500 new cases. Here in Southern California, San Bernardino reporting a dramatic increase in deaths, 59 new deaths for a total of 477. Also, nearly 600 new cases for a total of 34,000. Hospitals in Orange County are down to 539.
Over to Riverside, hospitalizations there are up to 450. Both counties have more than 38,000 cases. LA County just reported 57 new deaths and 1,900 new cases for a total of more than 195,000. More than 1,700 people are currently in the hospital in LA County. LA's Unified Distance Learning Agreement with the Teachers Union still needs approval from the school board.
Yeah, the new school year starts in just 2 weeks. KCAL9's Hermela Aragawi reports underserved communities still face big hurdles when it comes to remote classes.
And for many parents who don't speak English, who have never had anything but maybe a mobile phone, they've never used a computer before, they've never used a tablet, so they really do need some basic training.
Technology is making school possible in this pandemic for LAUSD students, but for many families, especially some of the more than 80% who live at or below the poverty line, it's also a major obstacle.
We found that many parents didn't have an email account, didn't know how to reach anybody at their schools. So we had to teach them to set up a Gmail account, how to use Google, find their school's website, how to get the contact information, because they were calling, picking up at the phone and calling, but of course nobody was at the school answering the phone.
Jenny Hans is the communication director for Speak Up, a parents group that has been working to fill the gaps in education, especially during this pandemic. She says after seeing the need in March, they created iFamily, a free technology training for parents and their children.
This is really an impossible task for working parents.
LAUSD says they continue to make sure every student has a device and internet connection and have added more training, including a YouTube channel to help answer questions. The first week of school come fall will also focus on getting families trained on the technology.
From August 20th through the 28th, we'll have time to spend with our students and families and the community on how to do the distance learning and go through any technology issues that might come up as we're Zooming.
In an agreement reached yesterday, LAUSD and UTLA say there will be 90 to 170 minutes of live instruction every day. For some parents, that's not nearly enough, but others say even that is a challenge.
It's an unrealistic agreement only because of the amount of hours that the district and our UTLA leadership is expecting live instruction.
And teachers tell us even when the technology's working the best it can, educating through it comes with unique challenges.
And then there are some students that might not want to speak up during this Zoom session to say that they actually have a problem. Where in the class, we could walk around and see, yeah, okay, well, this student's struggling and we'll go work with them.
Hermela Aragawi, KCAL9 News.
Tomorrow, officials with the Long Beach Unified School District will have a closed-door meeting to talk about what their school year will look like. There's still a lot of concern about distance learning and safety measures at schools, but for now, classes will continue to be online at least through the first week in October. The school year starts September 1st in Long Beach.
TK through 6 schools can get waivers for in-person classes, even if they're in counties on the state's coronavirus monitoring list. California's state epidemiologist explained the process.
A superintendent or an equivalent at a school can review their site-specific safety plans, and they need to follow along with our California Department of Public Health guidance, as well as any other public health guidance from the CDC and elsewhere. They need to post their plans for their site-specific safety plans publicly, and then they can submit a request for a waiver to their local health officer.
Schools and counties whose numbers are twice that of the standard for getting off the monitoring list aren't eligible for those waivers.
4.7 million. That is the current number of coronavirus cases in the country right now. And California isn't the only state grappling with how to reopen schools. It is one of 32 states and Puerto Rico where the percentage of positive tests are still above the recommended levels to allow reopenings. Iowa's governor has warned schools that do not open in her state will not get credit for online instruction hours. Mississippi's governor has ordered a mask mandate across the state for the next 2 weeks. And in Texas, health officials warn while COVID-19 cases are declining there, don't let your guard down because flu season is just around the corner.
But the biggest thing is this year more than ever, I think getting the flu shot and making sure patients know how and where to get it is important, because along with the COVID-19 pandemic, we don't want to add more than we need to with the normal seasonal flu.
Well, the pandemic is also affecting more major events. The Indianapolis 500 will go on, but without fans in attendance. And New York's Christmas Spectacular featuring the Radio City Rockettes has been canceled. And you can get the latest coronavirus updates on our new CBS Los Angeles app. Just go to cbsla.com/app to download it. CAL FIRE says they are making progress against the massive fire in Cherry Valley.
That's right. The Apple Fire, as it's called, has burned nearly 27,000 acres since Friday. It's only 15% contained. Investigators say it was sparked by a diesel vehicle emitting burning exhaust. Well, tonight, evacuation orders have been lifted for areas east of Oak Glen Road in Riverside County and all areas west of Potrero Road and north of Wilson Street in Riverside County. All other evacuation orders and warnings are still in effect. Fire officials are concerned the low humidity and an upcoming wind event could create spot fires in the days ahead.
But at least they have this. It is certainly cooler. You can definitely feel it today. Let's check in now with meteorologist Amber Lee. Hi, Amber.
Hi, Susie. Hi, Juan. That's right. The cool down has started. It started today, and we're going to continue that trend as we head into the next few days. It's all because of a trough to the north of us. We're also dealing with some gustier sea breeze, so that onshore push is a little bit stronger, especially over some of the mountaintops. So that's why with the stronger winds, we will continue to feel the low humidity. So elevated fire danger is still there. You can see 94 degrees currently for Lancaster, 93 for Victorville, 92 for San Bernardino, 77 for downtown LA. Today we topped out just a little bit cooler than yesterday, so we did come in the upper 70s at about 78, so we're slowly starting to cool down. 73 near the airport, and then we have upper 60s for Malibu. Let's take a look at our temperature drop compared to this time 24 hours ago. You can see we're definitely cooler. Down by 5 for San Bernardino, down by 5 for Riverside, down by 6 for Lancaster, down by 6 also for Van Nuys. And then we are up by just a couple degrees for the LAX area compared to this time 24 hours ago. But you can see the breezes continue to whip up. We do have double-digit wind speeds over the Antelope Valley, double digits going through the Inland Empire, the San Fernando Valley, and right along the coast. I'll tell you how long this cooling trend is going to stick around. Back to you guys.
Amber, thanks so much. Investigators are looking into the death of a man in South LA. LA County Sheriff's deputies found the man shot to death this morning. It was reported just before 8 on the 1400 block of West 113th Street. No other information has been released at this point. The husband of LA County District Attorney Jackie Lacey is facing charges for waving a gun at Black Lives Matter protesters outside his home.
Good morning.
Get off of my porch right now. Get off.
Good morning.
Get off of my porch.
Shoot me?
I will shoot you.
Well, this was David Lacey back on March 2nd. State Attorney General Javier Becerra has charged him now with 3 misdemeanor counts of assault with a firearm. Jackie Lacey later apologized on her husband's behalf, saying there had been several threats on their lives. Lacey faces a tough re-election race in November. Several prominent politicians have either rescinded their support or have endorsed her opponent, George Gascon.
DA Lacey issued a statement which reads in part, "Protesters arrived at my house shortly after 5 a.m. while we were upstairs. My husband felt that we were in danger and acted out of genuine concern for our well-being." Melina Abdullah, a co-founder of the LA chapter of Black Lives Matter, who was one of those threatened, also released a statement that reads as follows. Anyone else who pulled the gun because they were agitated, then spoke the words, "I will shoot you," would have been immediately arrested and charged with felony counts. Coming up next at 4, authorities back at the scene of an alleged cockfighting ring.
Yeah, the reason they returned to the ranch for a second day.
I'm Greg Mills in Compton. The city is in a battle with the people they pay to protect them. That story coming up.
Plus, tracking Isaias, the tropical storm continues to cause widespread damage along the East Coast.
And we're going to hear from Tiger Woods as he returns to the golf course this week at the PGA Championship. That's ahead in sports. Multiple law enforcement agencies returned to the scene of an alleged cockfighting ring in Chatsworth today. Sky 9 was over the Sacred Oaks Ranch earlier as officials began to remove the animals. As many as 3,000 cockfighting roosters were found at the ranch yesterday, along with several hundred farm animals. Several people at the property were detained, but it's unclear what charges, if any, they will actually face. Police want your help this afternoon identifying a suspect in a series of assaults on women in Orange County.
Here is a sketch of the man. He's described as Hispanic, in his 40s, with black hair and brown eyes. All the alleged attacks happened in daylight at Giralva Park near the Santiago Creek. Several women reported being grabbed by one man, one on her behind and one while the suspect was unzipping his pants. A woman who says she's a victim talked about her frightening encounter.
Clearly, he knows exactly what he's doing, and if I had not had my running shoes on and been able to run as fast as I could, I mean, who knows what could have happened to me? It could have been so much worse.
Police say each time he takes off, it's on a bicycle. The victim says he speaks English and Spanish. If you have any information, call Orange Police.
Allegations of excessive force and discrimination. Compton city leaders want the LA County Sheriff's Compton station investigated by state and federal agencies. KCAL9's Greg Mills spoke with the mayor and others who say they're fed up.
Harrowing tales of alleged incidents. A Compton basketball coach.
I don't even know what I'm being arrested for because I fit the damn description.
Compton restaurateur.
She hopped out the car very aggressive with her gun drawn, for no reason.
The mayor of Compton stopped here at Compton Boulevard and Wilmington Avenue.
And I asked, well, why am I being pulled over? And they said, because we believe that there are drugs in your vehicle.
Fed up, frustrated, angry. Compton leaders want the LA County Sheriff's Compton station investigated by state and federal agencies. They allege discrimination, excessive force, improper stops.
I told her she was treating me like a criminal. I didn't do anything.
They had the audacity to arrest me in front of my babies.
Compton officials also believe there is a gang element among sheriff's employees working out of here.
The known organized gang activity called the executioners that are running rampant and running the Compton Sheriff's Department.
The Sheriff's Department says, we are aware of the allegations regarding Compton Station and have launched multiple investigations. The results of the investigation will be released when legally permissible. The mayor says they pay the Sheriff's Department $22 million a year, and they want accountability. In Compton, Greg Mills, KCAL9 News.
An underwater search unit has found the amphibious assault vehicle that sank off San Clemente Island last week. Inside are the bodies of 7 Marines and a sailor who were killed in the accident. The U.S. Marine Corps released photos of the equipment used to find the vehicle, which sank nearly 400 feet down after taking on water during a shore-to-ship exercise. The Navy will take command of recovering the remains of the 8 members, as well as raising the vehicle. Tropical storm Isaias continues its destructive march up the East Coast tonight. It's toppled trees in Delaware, flooded streets in Pennsylvania, and destroyed a pier in South Carolina. In Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina, homes flooded and some caught fire. Look at this. A tornado wiped out a mobile home park in Windsor, killing 2 people, and more are still missing. More than 1 million customers lost electricity. New York City was also under a rare tornado warning for several hours.
It's not business as usual. It means stay indoors, stay safe, make sure your family's safe.
It's nothing there. You can actually see the frame of a mobile home across the field. Vehicles are turned over. It's just very sad.
Forecasters say Isaias hasn't lost as much steam as expected after making landfall. The National Hurricane Center is predicting heavy rain and more tornadoes as Isaias moves into New England tonight with possible flash flooding. Sounds serious.
Yeah,
huh?
It is really serious. And our resident forecaster here, meteorologist Amber Lee, has been tracking Isaias and our cool down here in the Southland. Hi, Amber.
Just ahead here at 4, President Trump taking heat for mispronouncing the name of an iconic California national park.
Live from the Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL9 News at 9.
1,000 Americans are dying a day. They are dying. That's true. And it is what it is.
President Trump defends his handling of the coronavirus pandemic even as the death toll continues to rise.
And Tropical storm Isaias delivers a punch to South Carolina before spinning up the East Coast to continue its destruction. Also ahead,
Massive explosions in Beirut create a giant mushroom cloud. Dozens of people are dead, and the number is only going higher. Welcome to KCAL9 News at 9, and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Pat Harvey.
And I'm Juan Fernandez. Lebanon's interior minister says tonight the blasts probably happened when nearly 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate detonated.
Well, the explosions flattened much of that port city. KCAL9's Tom Wade is live in the newsroom now with new video and new information about the explosion. Tom?
Yeah, hi there, Pat and Juan. Tonight we spoke with families inside Beirut who described scenes of horrific carnage. The videos of the explosion are hard to watch, and the destruction is mind-boggling. Stunning new video from Beirut tonight of destruction and devastation. Windows blown out in every high-rise in this entire video. Multiple explosions laid waste to a huge swath of Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. The thousands of shell-shocked, wounded, packed hospitals, medical personnel doing all they could to keep up with the injured that kept flowing into emergency rooms. The massive explosion ripped through the capital at 7 p.m. local. The incredible blast tore through office, industrial, and apartment buildings around the port. Tonight, government leaders say the cause, almost 3,000 tons of highly explosive ammonium nitrate, commonly used as fertilizer, but also used as an explosive in mining, stored in a warehouse at the port, seized from a ship 5 years ago. But what sparked it is yet unknown. Terrorism has not been ruled out. This evening, President Trump offered his condolences and also claimed the explosion was likely an attack.
Are you confident that this was an attack and not an accident?
Well, it would seem like it based on the explosion. I've met with some of our great generals, and they just seemed to feel that it was. This was not a some kind of a manufacturing explosion type of event. They seemed to think it was a attack. It was a bomb of some kind, yes.
In Beirut, residents are barely coming to terms with what happened.
Houses, buildings, dead bodies in the streets, injuries. Hospitals couldn't accept more injuries and bodies because they were full. Beirut is a destroyed city. It is like a real war zone.
Tonight we spoke with freelance reporter Luna Safwan. She lives outside the city but felt the blast.
I felt that it shook in a way that it wasn't similar to an earthquake, but to a deep explosion that we experienced in the past in Lebanon, because we had many explosions and assassinations. Everyone started just texting their loved ones and making sure that everyone is fine. This is a very vital road, the road that was where the explosion reached. So this is the highway that each of us takes at least twice per week.
The horrific incident is impacting many Southland families. We spoke with Jimmy Awad, who owns Beirut Cafe in Burbank. Jimmy has a brother, cousins, and other family in Beirut who described the unbelievable scenes of carnage.
Blew out every window, in all of downtown Beirut. Even it was heard to Cyprus. That sound was heard there. Broken glasses everywhere. Thousands are injured. Thousands are missing. You know, the first explosion, all the ambulance and the fire people went in, didn't come out. It's just tragic. You know, people offering help from their homes for shelter for people who are left without any homes.
While Jimmy's heart breaks for Beirut and Lebanon, suffering from an economic depression, the pandemic, and after years of war and civil war, he is holding on to hope that the people will somehow overcome this.
We will get through this. Just one bad thing after another. God help us all, you know.
Some good news tonight. Jimmy's family in Beirut is all okay. As the sun rises in Lebanon, though, you can expect there will be a rush to find out how this happened, and if it was an attack, the hunt will be on for whoever carried it out. Reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Tom Waite. Juan, back to you.
All right, Tom, thanks for that. In other news, Isaias first hit North Carolina as a hurricane, sparking floods, fires, and twisters. The storm left a trail of destruction.
In Bertie County, a tornado decimated a mobile home park, killing at least 2 people. In Ocean Isle, North Carolina, beach homes were left smoldering after fires broke out overnight. And the National Guard arrived in Oak Island to help.
It's bad. It doesn't look real. Something you see on TV, it's like nothing is there.
Longest, scariest 20 minutes I ever been into.
Tonight, what's left of the storm is racing through New England.
Mola Lengi shows us what it looks like.
Tropical storm Isaias slammed into the northeast today, still packing near hurricane force winds at 70 miles per hour, killing at least 2 people who were crushed to death by toppled trees.
Here in Norwalk, Connecticut, it's the wind that's being felt more than any other part of this storm. Wind is just howling out here. You can see it playing out here on the bay. Water is extremely choppy. These boats that are docked in this marina are rocking. They are shaking.
Another tree destroyed this mail truck, but the mail carrier survived. Winds ripped the roof right off of this house in Ocean City, New Jersey, and an apparent tornado uprooted trees in Pennsylvania. Other tornadoes were reported in Maryland and New Jersey, where the governor declared a state of emergency.
We urge all residents to stay off the roads and stay at home today.
Heavy rains flooded this Maryland neighborhood, washing out roads. Rising waters brought traffic to a halt in Delaware as major flooding trapped drivers in their cars. Mola Lengi, Norwalk, Connecticut.
Wow. So where exactly is Isaias right now, and where is the storm headed to next?
Well, KCAL9 meteorologist Evelyn Taft joins us live with the answers. Ev.
Pat, Juan, the storm, the tropical storm Isaias is continuing to churn and continuing to move to the northeast, to be exact. As we get a look at satellite radar right here, you will see the rain bands continuing to move to the north. When it made landfall yesterday as a hurricane, we were looking at tornadic activity. We saw about 20 tornadoes spawned from the hurricane that is now a tropical storm. We're looking at tropical storm warnings up and down the eastern seaboard right there. You'll see from New York all the way into Boston. Flash flood watches remaining in effect through the morning hours as well. And the storm will continue to move to the northeast over the next couple of days, packing winds of 45 miles per hour. Of course, we will have the latest on tropical storm Isaias as we move through the evening, and our forecast, our cool down especially, here in just a bit. But for now, Pat, Juan, back to you.
Sounds good, Ed. Thank you. A technical problem in getting coronavirus lab results is calling into question the lower case numbers being reported in the state.
Well, the unresolved issue means there hasn't been a full count through electronic lab reports. LA County is now reaching out to individual facilities to verify results. So the county only reported 1,900 new cases, but another 57 deaths. San Bernardino saw a dramatic increase in deaths, 59 today, for a total of 477. Also nearly 600 new cases. Hospitalizations in Orange County are down to 539. In Riverside, hospitalizations are up slightly from yesterday, but down over the last week. Both counties have more than 38,000 cases.
Well, more states are issuing or extending mask mandates as COVID numbers continue to grow. Washington knows it's critical to get more economic relief to people affected by the pandemic, but so far there isn't an agreement on what that relief should be. Whitney Wild reports the White House says it may sidestep Congress if a deal isn't reached soon.
The White House now weighing whether to take executive action if stimulus aid negotiations stall in Congress. A White House official saying if something isn't reached by the end of the week, we don't want to see it go for another week.
I may not have to sign. I mean, progress is being made, as you know very well, in the Hill.
The progress made in Tuesday's closed-door negotiations, still no deal. The price tag House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is eyeing $3.4 trillion, which Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin is blasting as ridiculous. Now cases in about 28 states are plateauing at very high levels.
We must ensure that these states did not become new flare-ups, so we're watching them very, very closely.
Illinois reporting nearly 1,500 new COVID-19 cases Tuesday. The state reporting over 1,000 new cases for 14 days straight now.
If we don't see some change here, the virus will cause some businesses to close and an increasing percentage of people to get sick, and some will even die.
And deaths are now rising in at least 27 states.
Never experienced anything like this.
A funeral home in Del Rio, Texas says they're overwhelmed, holding up to 15 funerals a week.
Lose a loved one when they're by themselves, you want to be able to hold their hand, be able to see them take their last breath.
At the White House, I'm Whitney Wild reporting.
President Trump is drawing fire for his comments about the rising death toll from coronavirus. With more than 1,000 Americans dying every day, the president said, quote, "It is what it is." Paula Reed tells us Democrats have already turned that phrase into a campaign ad to lambast his leadership.
With the virus costing over 1,000 American lives per day, President Trump continues to maintain the pandemic is under control, most recently in an interview on HBO.
What's your definition of control? Yeah, under the giving them a false sense of security. Now, I think it's under control. I'll tell you what.
How? 1,000 Americans are dying a day.
They are dying. That's true. And it is what it is.
In the interview, taped last week while Representative John Lewis laid in state in the Capitol, the president dismissed the civil rights leader's legacy and touted his own.
How do you think history will remember John Lewis?
I don't know. I can't say one way or the other. He didn't come to my inauguration. He didn't come to my State of the Union speeches, and that's okay. That's his right. Nobody has done more for black Americans than I have.
I understand.
He should have come.
Today, during a White House signing ceremony for a conservation bill, the president oddly flubbed the name of one of the country's most popular tourist destinations, Yosemite National Park.
When their eyes widen in amazement as Old Faithful bursts into the sky, when they gaze upon Yosemites, towering sequoias.
After weeks of criticizing efforts to expand mail-in voting ahead of the November election, President Trump actually endorsed it today, but in one state only, Florida, where elderly voters, key to his re-election, regularly vote by mail. The president's attacks on the security of mail-in voting have concerned Republican leaders across the country. They're worried that by doing this, the president may actually be discouraging GOP voter turnout in November. Paula Reed, the White House.
So many people are working from home because of the pandemic, but what happens when they have to return? Later in this newscast, why some workers are worried there won't be enough safety measures.
Also ahead, encouraging news in the search for a COVID vaccine. We'll show you what several companies have already discovered.
And President Trump hits his sour note with singer Neil Young. An underwater search unit has found the amphibious assault vehicle that sank off San Clemente Island last week. The bodies of 7 Marines and a sailor who were killed in the accident are inside it. The U.S. Marine Corps released photos of the equipment used to find the vehicle, which sank nearly 400 feet down after taking on water during a shore-to-ship exercise. The Navy will take command of recovering the remains of the 8 service members as well as raising the vehicle.
The husband of LA County District Attorney Jackie Lacey is facing charges for waving a gun at Black Lives Matter protesters outside his home.
Good morning.
Get off of my porch right now. Get off.
Good morning.
Get off of my porch.
Shoot me?
I will shoot you.
That was David Lacey back on March 2nd. State Attorney General Javier Becerra has now charged him with 3 misdemeanor counts of assault with a firearm. Jackie Lacey later apologized on his behalf, saying there had been several threats on their lives. Lacey faces a tough re-election race in November. Several prominent politicians have either rescinded their support or have endorsed her opponent, George Gascon. DA Lacey issued a statement which reads in part, "Protesters arrived at my house shortly after 5 a.m. while I was upstairs. My husband felt that we were in danger and acted out of genuine concern for our well-being." Melina Abdullah, a co-founder of the LA chapter of Black Lives Matter, who was one of those threatened, also released a statement saying anyone else who pulled a gun because they were agitated, then spoke the words, "I will shoot you," would have been immediately arrested and charged with felony counts.
Singer Neil Young is taking action to make sure President Trump doesn't use his music at his campaign rallies. He is suing the campaign and asking for monetary damages. Young says he doesn't want his music used as a theme song for what he calls a divisive, un-American campaign of ignorance and hate. He specifically mentions his songs "Rockin' in the Free World" and "Devil's Sidewalk." The songs have already been used at Trump rallies in Tulsa and at a Mount Rushmore event last month. Young, who is Canadian, says he became a U.S. citizen this year just so he could vote against President Trump. No comment tonight from the Trump campaign.
Well, we've been talking, Evelyn has been telling us the temperature is going to start to come down today, and it felt a little cooler.
I'm starting to feel it coming in later, just a little while ago. Yeah, definitely. It's cooler out there.
It is. Right on the money, Ev.
You feel it, right?
Oh, yeah.
You do feel it.
Right? Oh, I love it. I love being right on the money. I live for it.
Experienced something most of us take for granted.
She heard her mother's voice for the first time, and Janet Shamlian shows us.
There are so many firsts in a child's life.
But few can compare to this.
Can you hear Mama? Mama? Yeah. I think you can hear me.
I think that is it.
It's almost too much for Mavis Malone. She can hear for the very first time.
It was almost as if she couldn't believe it.
There's just that split second right before she covers them that I felt like she wanted to cry, like, I heard it, you know.
The 2-year-old was born with profound hearing loss. Hopes were high a 4-hour surgery would change that. Doctors putting cochlear implants in both ears. The device is delivering sound directly to the auditory nerve. Now, without her mom signing, Mavis understands.
Grandma.
And a trip to the park with her older brothers is a whole new world.
I'm happy that my sister can hear, and I love her.
An end to the silence.
Oh, sweetie, it's okay. Oh, big girl.
And a life forever changed. Janet Shamlian, Houston.
Oh,
love that.
Too adorable. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, later in this newscast, recounting their amazing adventure, hear from the SpaceX astronauts who just made history.
And in sports, the latest on Shohei Ohtani's injured arm and whether the Angels superstar will pitch again this season. Jamie Maggio has that for us next in sports.
Live from the Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL9 News at 9.
Welcome back to KCAL9 News at 9 and streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez.
And I'm Pat Harvey. And more than 156,000 Americans have now died of COVID-19. And there have been nearly 5 million confirmed cases.
Well, with schools about to reopen, the debate over protecting kids and teachers is intensifying. Manuel Bojorquez shows us what happened at a Georgia school.
This photo shows the first day back at one school in Paulding County, Georgia. Complaints of crowded hallways, few masks, and packed buses.
My daughter, she actually sat beside a girl whose brother has just tested positive.
In nearby Cherokee County, students crowded around each other for a senior photo. No masks here. The images reveal just how difficult it could be for schools to enforce new safety measures. Some teachers in Arkansas protested.
I don't want there to be a misconception that teachers don't want to go back to work. We're working now. We work every day. We're willing to work. We're not willing to risk ourselves, our families, and our children.
Though new COVID-19 cases dropped about 9% nationwide compared to the previous week, deaths jumped 24% during the same time period. While cases across the Sunbelt states appear to be plateauing, there is renewed concern about rising numbers elsewhere. At least 17 states are reporting increases in coronavirus cases, including New Jersey, where average new cases spiked 108% in the last 2 weeks. Yet some continue to ignore the precautions. There appear to be no masks or social distancing at this LA mansion party that became so rowdy a shooting left one person dead. Houston became the largest U.S. city to announce fines for violating its mask ordinance, $250. In New York, the Rockettes Christmas Spectacular has been canceled because of the virus, the first time since the 1930s. Manuel Bojorquez, Miami.
Well, one of the sticking points in getting a new COVID relief bill is that Republicans insist businesses be protected from lawsuits if employees or customers are exposed to the virus.
Well, but workers say that puts them at risk. And Nancy Cordes tells us what a CBS News investigation found at one company.
No one told us that he had passed out on the job.
45-year-old Mike Jackson was working a mandatory overtime shift at this Milwaukee engine plant in May when a coworker saw him slumped over. But he was back at work 2 days later.
Why do you think he went to work even if he wasn't feeling well?
They will fire you. He got 4 young kids he have to take care of, so he go to work sick.
Jackson collapsed again and was sent to the hospital, where he tested positive for coronavirus. He died 10 days later.
Boy, it hurts so bad. I wasn't there with him. When he passed, he died by himself.
6 current workers tell CBS News the company, Briggs & Stratton, required them to work face-to-face on the assembly line and that managers rarely wore masks.
The company doesn't care whether we live or die.
Briggs & Stratton declined an interview, but in a statement, the company told CBS News, "We do not force anyone to come to work if they aren't feeling well, nor do we penalize them." The company said it follows CDC guidelines and that workers can apply for paid leave to self-quarantine. The company also provided this photo showing plastic barriers between workers. But another photo provided by an employee a day later appears to show the same barriers rolled up.
What do we do? Stand up, fight back!
Fighting back might soon become more difficult. Senate Republicans have a new bill that would shield companies from some coronavirus lawsuits. Workers have already filed suits against Walmart, Amazon, McDonald's, and Tyson Foods.
What do you say to workers who worry that your liability protections basically give their employers license to avoid taking the kinds of precautions that would keep them safe?
This is mainly to protect them, because the employers would only be liable if they were grossly negligent.
A month before his death, Mike Jackson and his co-workers protested the lack of safety equipment at the plant. Federal safety regulators are now investigating the workers' complaints.
If they would have protected the workers, I think my son probably would still have been here.
Nancy Cordes, Capitol Hill.
Well, college towns across the country feel more like ghost towns because the pandemic forced so many schools to cancel in-person classes. Ithaca, New York is one example. Look at this. It's usually booming. Shops and restaurants packed with students and others connected to Cornell University or Ithaca College. But business instantly plunged in March when students were sent home, and it isn't looking promising for the fall.
I think people are realizing now for the first time that students are a prime economic driver.
If our businesses have to stay closed, we could be losing up to a quarter of our revenue for the next year, which would force mass layoffs and large property tax increases.
Well, cities surrounding Colorado State University saw tax revenue drop by more than 21%. Schools and businesses say until the pandemic is over, they will continue to be in limbo.
Crews are still hard at work restoring the Notre Dame Cathedral nearly a year and a half after the iconic landmark caught fire. KCAL9's Ian Lee shows us builders are now picking up the pace on one of their most difficult tasks yet.
The world held its breath watching Notre Dame burn in Paris last year, hoping the nearly 900-year-old cathedral would survive. Miraculously, much of it did, including the 18th century organ.
It's of course a big deal to do this because, as you probably know, the organ didn't burn, didn't melt, so it's apparently totally safe.
Johann Vexo is the cathedral's organist. He says while structurally the instrument is safe, it's unusable. This week, experts began removing the dangerous lead residue left by the fire. But dismantling, cleaning, and reassembling France's largest musical instrument is no easy task.
It's about 8,000 pipes inside, and the different parts of the mechanic, of the action of the instrument. So a lot of metal and wood parts to clean.
Experts predict restoring the organ could take 4 years before it bellows again throughout the medieval building. The multi-year timeline is not for a lack of money, with donations raised in just days to a tune of $1 billion. France's President Emmanuel Macron hopes they're right. He wants the restoration completed by 2024, when Paris is set to host the Olympic Games. Ian Lee, London.
When will you finally see those Clorox wipes on store shelves again? The answer from the company's CEO is coming up later in this newscast, and it's not very encouraging.
Uh-oh. Well, it's not fired, but it is being sold. Why President Trump's company is unloading the helicopter seen on the show The Apprentice.
And we're expecting temperatures to get cooler as we move into the next couple of days. I'll have your full forecast coming up.